In this video, I want to cover why I think that the World Series is still going to be the Indians versus the Cubs. And I also want to show the parallels between the two teams and their curses. Because both of their curses, or both of the teams, are connected to the number 108. You know, the Cubs haven't won the World Series in 108 years. I went back to the 1908 World Series, and almost everyone on that team, all the MVPs of the team, were connected to the number 48, which the Indians haven't won since 1948. And in 1948, the most valuable player was this guy, Lou Boudreau. And he just so happened to die on Rocky Colavito's 67th birthday. Cleveland Indians in Gematria equals 67. But August 10th is also 10/8, a lot like 108. And Rocky Colavito, just want to show you here, born on August 10th, 10/8. The curse of Rocky Colavito happened because he got traded to the Detroit Tigers for Harvey Kuenn on the 108th day of the year of 1960. And in 1960, Lou Boudreau just so happened to leave radio announcing to go coach the Cubs. So he became the coach of the Cubs for one season and then went back to radio announcing, but he was the coach of the Cubs, you know, during the curse of Rocky Colavito. Also, Terry Francona's father, Tito Francona, he played for the Cleveland Indians the same year that the curse happened. And then we also have, we have Harvey Kuenn then. He played 57 games for the Cubs at the end of his career. If you write out World Series, it equals 57. He died at the age of 57 on the same day that Aroldis Chapman was born, 2/28 of 1988. And I talked about this previously, but the day of the Hoboken train wreck, the Cubs tied the Pittsburgh Pirates. And that was also on that same day, the Detroit Tigers and the Cleveland Indians had a postponed game that they never made up this year. And if you write out Pittsburgh Pirates, it equals 228, a lot like this date. If you go from 2/28 to the day that the Cubs picked up Chapman, a span of 148 days, if you write out Cleveland Indians, it equals 148. Last night in the baseball game even, and so the Bears played on Thursday night and the Cubs played on Thursday night. And the Cubs scored 8 runs and the Bears scored 10 points. 10-8, a lot like 108. And just think about the score of every game that the Cubs have won against the Dodgers. They scored 8 points in game 1. Then the next game they won, they scored 10 points. And then now they won last night with 8 points, or 8 runs. 8, 10, 8. I also talked about all of the postponed games in the playoffs and how they sync up to the World Series. The Dodgers, however, their game was postponed on October 8th, 10/8. The last time that they had a postponed game in the regular season, the game was made up and the Dodgers won 10-8. Even listen to the post-game talk here. They have A-Rod about last night, and A-Rod makes it a big deal that Jon Lester threw 108 pitches last night.
It's better than advertising. Let me give you one stat which I thought was extremely compelling. Tell the story of Jon Lester. 108 pitches, 100 fastballs, 30 fastballs. One word to describe his performance?
108 pitches.
Well, he also pitches the whole game. Well, 8 breaking balls.
You notice how he stuttered 8-8 right there? Well, 8-8 breaking balls. That's because Curse of the Billy Goat equals 88. That's why Javier Baez got the 8th run in the 8th inning last night, because they were mocking you. That's why he pretended to get hurt. They were mocking you with the Curse of the Billy Goat, because back when the Steve Bartman incident happened, the Marlins went on to get 8 runs in the 8th inning. It was the 88th season at Wrigley Field. But this year, you know, that's why they're playing the Dodgers, I believe, is because the Dodgers last won in the year 88. Vin Scully's 88 years old. It's all about the 88 and the 108. But the 88 has looked to be positive for the Cubs. You know, they even zoomed in on the temperature of the game the other night. They were making sure they let us know that it was 88 degrees there, and then the Cubs went on to win. Any other time, any other year, if you saw the 88 with the Cubs did not win. And I've also talked about the movie Major League and how it connects to Michael Jordan because of 1993 and 94. 94 when he went to play baseball with the Chicago White Sox. There's been a bunch of foreshadowing to the year 2005, the year that the Chicago White Sox won the World Series for the first time in 88 years. You know, the Minnesota Mall stabbing, I talked about how it's connected to the year 2005 through the movie Charlie St. Cloud. Talked about the day of the Hoboken train wreck and the Cubs tie. The last time there was a tie was in the year 2005. So anyway, I just wanted to show that the Indians and the Cubs, the reason they haven't been winning in the World Series and their curses, they're kind of overlapped and interrelated. And there is more to it. You know, I've made tons of videos on it. It's worth it to go back and watch all of these, like, my videos for the last, 3 months. It would take forever, but I'm telling you, there's so much information in there, even I forget it. And I have to go back through and try to reorganize it, you know? But I know there are many other things that I have talked about where these two curses were connected. I also have talked a lot about this back-to-back theme in regards to the NBA Finals and LeBron James. And, you know, I thought it was going to be the Golden State Warriors. And now I'm starting to second-guess myself because I thought that the Cubs were going to win the World Series. Clear back in July, I thought all of this foreshadowing was to the Cubs and possibly a Cubs versus Indians. And, you know, Golden State Warriors equals 108. There was all kinds of 108 in the NBA playoffs as well. The Cleveland Indians won 10 games in a row before losing to Toronto. And then the last game that they won on their 10th game in a row, they scored 108 points. So basically, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if the 108, you know, is it foreshadowing the Cubs, or is all of the 108 that seems to be connected to the Cubs actually connected to the curse of Rocky Colavito? You know, which one is which? What are they pointing us to? And, you know, I watched, people have told me to watch Tony DiLorenzi's videos. He has a lot of great information. Some of the stuff that he does on his gematria, I just don't do stuff that way. And possibly I am wrong. You know, he does stuff like Los Angeles, CA, instead of actually writing out California all the way. Possibly that is a connection. I've just never done it that way. It's never seemed to follow through as much as actually just writing out Los Angeles or Los Angeles, California for me. One of the things that he was talking about on just, you know, I've only watched like 3 or 4 of his videos. One of the things he's talking about was Magic Johnson and the Dodgers connection, and he's 57 years old, which is a very valid point, and it's great. But I think Magic Johnson is connected to the Cleveland Indians through LeBron James. Somebody pointed out to me LeBron James is more like Magic Johnson than Michael Jordan, which, you know, that's been a big topic. But the day Magic Johnson was born, August 14th, can also be written as 14/8, which Cleveland Indians equals 148. The World Series equals 57, Magic Johnson's 57. I think they're just connecting it to the Cleveland Indians, you know, and 1988, the last time the Dodgers won the World Series, the Lakers also won the NBA Finals with Magic Johnson on the team, so it was a same city championship, which possibly that's what they're pointing out with Magic Johnson. You know, Cleveland, Ohio would win the World Series with the Indians and win the NBA Finals with the Cavs. And in 1948, the last time the Indians won the World Series, the Cleveland Browns also won the AAFC. So there was same city championships in 1948 as well. Another reason I bring this up is because I'm telling you, they mentioned back-to-back a whole bunch in these playoff games. Even last night in the Cubs game, whoever the young kid is who hit the 2 home runs, they kept bringing up how he hit back-to-back home runs and he's only 22 or whatever. I mean, they just bring up back-to-back a whole lot in these games. And it's really making me wonder if that whatever I was following from January is actually going to be the back-to-back championships with Cleveland. Even the last time that a same-city championship happened, or like with the main teams, the NBA and the NHL, the MLB, NFL, it was the Boston Red Sox and the Boston Celtics in 2007, and that was the year that Terry Francona took the Boston Red Sox to the World Series to win it. The Dodgers coach, even, he played under Terry Francona, and he played for the Boston Red Sox the year that they broke the curse, right? And look when he made his debut with the Cleveland Indians. The reason I don't think, one of the bigger reasons I don't think that the Dodgers will win the World Series is because he's 44 years old as well. Kill equals 44. 44 seems to be just terrible, unless it's on a date numerology of 44, you know. Whatever game that was, when the Dodgers started number 44, their pitcher, and then they won, and it was on a date numerology of 44. And then the next game, the Cubs won on a date numerology of 45. Cubs equal 45. Wrigley equals 45. Illinois equals 45. And last night, the date numerology was 46. Chicago equals 46. Chicago Cubs equals 46. So we'll see. The game tomorrow is on a date numerology of 48 and 68. You know, Dave Roberts equals 48. But a lot of that is foreshadowing to the Cleveland Indians, who haven't won since 48. Another thing that stood out to me was in Game 5 of the Blue Jays versus the Indians, there was a streaker that ran out onto the field in the bottom of the 9th inning, just before, I can't even remember who was batting. Bautista, I think, was up, and there was a streaker that ran out onto the field. And this also happened in the NBA Finals with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors. It was that vitalized TV guy. And when he ran out onto the court, there was 1 minute and 12 left in the fourth quarter. We're going into the 112th World Series. The Warriors ended up winning that game with 108 points. Remember, Golden State Warriors equals 108, though. The Cavs had 97. And then the next game was when the Cavs went on their 3-game winning streak to come back and win the NBA Finals on the real King James birthday. But the next game, the Cavaliers scored 112 points. Also, this game where the streaker was, it was the 162nd day of the year. You know, if you write out Major League Baseball, it equals 162. They play 162 regular season games. Cleveland Indians advanced on to the World Series for the first time since 97. The Cavs scored 97 points. You know, the 112. It's just interesting, you know, 1997. Anyway, it's been 19 years. The 19th prime is 67. The Cleveland Indians, according to the TV, haven't won in 67 seasons. Cleveland Indians equals 67. If you write out 67, it equals 162, like Major League Baseball. Interesting, too, thinking about it, if you total the score up, 108 to 97, it equals 205. The word Israel equals 205. We talk about how the Zionist Jews are the ones who script the sports leagues. And I have a whole other post that I'll make about it, because at Buffalo Wild Wings, one of these Indians games, there was a guy that was holding up a sign that said, Love Israel, and he was advertising for his company. Actually, I'll just show that. Might as well make a long video. So they go to the Buffalo Wild Wings in Cleveland, downtown Cleveland, and they're all standing there, and then randomly this guy puts up this sign, and it says, Heart Israel, ? Right? So I take it as, do you love Israel? And then it says back 1 as the word, and then 948. And I've been trying to figure out what exactly this means, and it says on Kickstarter, and I couldn't find back 1948 on Kickstarter. It's just 1948 and not back. But I mean, just think about it in regards to the Indians who haven't won in 1948. But also in regards to Israel, Israel declared its independence in 1948. And there's all kinds of 145 around it. The very first Major League Baseball season was in 1871, 145 years ago. The first game was on 5/4, right? If you write out the word baseball, baseball equals 54. 5 months and 4 days later after the first game was the Great Chicago Fire on 10/8. If you write out 145 as words, it equals 108. If you write out Chicago, Illinois, it equals 145. So anyway, if you want to, you can do some more research into this sign, but it's just interesting how they have it, you know, a word and then 948 to stand for a certain year. You know, there's some type of puzzle involved in it, especially when it has Israel on it. And I finally found it. It was 1948. It's an Israel-themed apparel on, business they're trying to start on Kickstarter. But the little demo video is 2 minutes, 5 seconds long. And that's not by coincidence, because in Jewish gematria, Israel equals 205. Even talked about Philadelphia a whole bunch. They love to base everything on the book of Revelation. Philadelphia is one of the churches in the book of Revelation. Lots of foreshadowing to Philadelphia in the past couple years. Philadelphia equals 205. 923 equals 205 as well. I thought was kind of interesting in regards to Pope Francis's visit last year to the United States on his 923rd day as Pope. He went to the White House at 923 on 923. LeBron James in Jewish gematria equals 923. Anyway, the reason Pope Francis became the Pope was because Pope Benedict quit or whatever. He retired early, and then Pope Francis became the Pope. Pope Benedict, he quit being the Pope on February 28th, 228. Reminds me of Harvey Kuhn and Aroldis Chapman. Also, the reason I bring that up is because Pope Benedict, he was the first Pope to quit early since the 205th Pope, which I just found interesting. I have a video a while back on all of the popes who retired early, I think, and a whole bunch of them were Benedicts, so I don't know what the purpose of that was. That was from a really long time ago, before I even knew gematria, but Prince George of Cambridge equals 205, Princess Charlotte equals 205, LeBron Ramon James equals 205, Anderson Franca Varejao equals 205, his nickname, Wild Thing, right? Talked about how it goes back to the movie Major League. Anderson Varejao is called the Wild Thing. He played for the Cleveland Cavaliers for 31 games this season. He got traded 31 days, or he went to the Warriors, who went to the NBA Finals with his old team, 31 days after Steve Kerr came back. Also the same day David Blatt got fired from the Cavs. The Warriors picked him up to replace number 31, Festus Ezeli, who missed 31 games. Anderson Varejao really connected to the Major League Baseball. I'll show that in a second, but in regards to 205, Hillary Diane Clinton also equals 205. And all of the Major League stuff, it even goes back to, like I said, it goes back to Michael Jordan playing for the Chicago White Sox or the Birmingham Barons. But Shoeless Joe Jackson also equals 205. In the movie Major League, they start playing better after they they get in a big old team fight against the Red Sox, then they start playing way better. Then they defeat the Blue Jays to win the division. And then they defeat the Chicago White Sox and advance on to the World Series. They don't tell you who wins the World Series, but just interesting that the Indians played the Red Sox, and then they played the Blue Jays, and now I'm pretty sure they're going to play Chicago. So anyway, Anderson Varejão's nickname was the Wild Thing. Charlie Sheen in the movie Major League was the Wild Thing, or as Rick Vaughn or whatever. Now he wants to throw the first pitch at the World Series. I mean, it's just such a joke. I talked about this over a month ago, or at least a month ago. I also, in my comments, I was shown that the song Wild Thing by the Troggs even came out on the 112th day of the year, April 22nd. We're going into the 112th World Series. Terry Francona was born on that same day. You know, he's 57 years old, like World Series. Anyway, in regards to Anderson Varejão, if you just write his name out, Anderson Varejão, it equals 162, just like Major League Baseball. When he went to the Warriors, he wore number 18, and he didn't play for 18 days until after they picked him up. They picked him up on 2/22, and then 18 days later he played the Portland Trail Blazers, who were the team who he got traded to in between there. He got traded to Portland, who dropped him, and then the Warriors picked him up. But he wore number 18 with the Warriors, didn't play them until 18 days later. Baseball equals 18. Also, the day that he was picked up by the Warriors on 2/22 was 147 days after his birthday. World Series equals 147. And in regards to the 108 and the Curse of Rocky Colavito and how it connects to the Cubs, August 8th, 10/8 or 8/10, it's normally the 222nd day of the year. Varejão picked up on 2/22. I mean, there's just so many parallels. I need to do more research into it, but I'm pretty sure LeBron James and Anderson Varejão are definitely super connected to this World Series. You know, I don't know. The World Series begins on 66 days before LeBron's birthday even. LeBron equals 66 in Gematria. If you total up the regular season wins of the Indians and the Cubs, 94 and 103, it equals 197. A whole bunch of this stuff goes back to Prince as well, who died on the 112th day of the year. But Prince in Jewish Gematria equals 197. LeBron in Jewish Gematria equals 197. And remember, LeBron James was Prince for Halloween last year in 2015. Kevin Love was Jackie Moon from the movie Semi-Pro. And Prince's death was all about the moon. Moon equals 57. He died age 57. He died on the night of a full moon. There's a whole lot more, you know. The Jews supposedly identify with the moon. I have a post somewhere in here. But they identify with the moon because the moon goes away. It almost goes completely away. And then it always comes back, just like their race, supposedly. Anyway, to get back on topic here really quick, I'm trying to make this video short, but the streaker that reminded me of the NBA Finals, if you go from the NBA Finals streaker to the streaker that happened in the Indians game, it was a span of 131 days. The word championship equals 131. Also, though, the Cleveland Cavaliers knocked out the Toronto Raptors 145 days before the Cleveland Indians knocked out the Toronto Blue Jays. So this number that's connected to Chicago, it seems, Chicago, Illinois, equals 145. Also, though, May 27th, the day the Cavs knocked out the Toronto Raptors, was the 148th day this year. Cleveland Indians equals 148. And to go back to the 145 stuff, a whole bunch of Israel's declaring its independence is all about 145. You know, I've even mentioned a whole lot about how back-to-back equals 69 in Gematria. If you write out Cleveland Cavaliers the small way, they equal 69. This year, on Vin Scully's birthday, 89th birthday, it will be the 69th anniversary of Israel being recognized. And there's all kinds of parallels to it. You know, Israel was created out of World War, and there's been just so much foreshadowing to World War. I have a video about the date of August 12th and how I thought it was a possible date to look out for as something in regards to World War III. And it's a very good video. I'll leave it in the description. That date also just so happened to be the very first day of the Major League Baseball strike that happened in 1994. So what I'm getting at is there's lots of interrelated stuff, and that's what I'm talking about in regards to all of this. They use sports and they script them to other events that they have planned. So just pointing it out. Back to back equals 69. It'll be the 69th anniversary of Israel being recognized on Vin Scully's birthday. Cleveland Cavaliers equals 69. If you write out World War III, it even equals 69. Anyway, in regards to Israel then, and this guy holding up the Israel sign for his business with the 2:05 time stamp on there. In that bio, I guess, they also write that they're based out of Cleveland, Ohio, the city of champions, which is just interesting because I've never heard that about Cleveland. Possibly everybody says that in Cleveland, I don't know. But when you look up City of Champions, it doesn't talk about Cleveland anywhere. It talks about other cities, but not Cleveland. So, you know, just interesting. It doesn't have to mean much, just something worth noting. And this picture won't load, but what I was pointing out in the picture was on the Kickstarter, they want $18,000. If you write out $18,000, it equals the same as the Curse of Rocky Colavito. In regards to 1948 and the last time then that the Indians won the World Series, Israel declared its independence on May 14th that year of 1948, and it was a leap year. So May 14th was the 145th day of the year, and it can also be written 14/5, a lot like 145. You know, Chicago, Illinois equals 145. Major League Baseball began 145 years ago. May 14th that year was also a date numerology of 67. Cleveland Indians equals 67. If you just did the year 19 plus 48, that also equals 67. If you went from the day that Israel declared its independence on the 145th day of the year, it was 145 days before the World Series began in 1948 as well. Israel's independence was declared by this guy, David Ben Gurion. Look at his name in Gematria. 145. He was also born on December 1st, which would be written as 1/12, a lot like 112. Or I guess that's the day that he died. 1/12, 112. He was born on 10 plus 16 plus 86, that equals 112. They even show that his birth name is David Grun, and in Jewish gematria it equals 1045, which reminds us a lot of 145. If you write out David Grun the small way, it equals 46. He died 46 days after his birthday. Chicago equals 46. Chicago Cubs equals 46. Interesting, if you go from that date this year to the day the World Series begins, it's a span of 5 months, 11 days. Saturn in Jewish gematria equals 511, and Saturn is the keeper of time. It's what they all worship. They love Saturn, you know, tons of Saturn worship. I mean, Saturn in simple gematria equals 93, which is just a number you see constantly in regards to the Jews. Even their legislator is called Knesset. It equals 93. The guy who's the current leader, his last name's Edelstein, that equals 93. I mean, it just goes on and on. These people, the Jews, worship Saturn. It's crazy. A few other interesting things, and I'm going to end it here. But I mean, there's just so many 145 connections. 145 connects back to 108. Interesting that it really connects to Israel as well, which I never knew that until just the other day, which is somewhat of a scary thought, but not really. Because, they do everything by the numbers. They've always done everything by the numbers. And, if enough people knew this, we could put an end to it. I keep talking about how it's the Cubs' 145th season, but it's not. I don't know why I keep saying that. It's the Cubs' 141st season, but Major League Baseball was 145 years ago. And 141, if you read out World War III, it equals 141. And that's why it's so significant in regards to the 69 and Vin Scully being born on the day that Israel was recognized. And it will be 69 years ago when he turns 89. But it's still significant because it's 145 years of Major League Baseball. For some reason, I just looked up to can't even find it now, but the first season of Cleveland actually had a team called Forest Cities in 1871. Interesting that they finished the season 10-19, and then now they're making the World Series on 10-19. But anyway, let's go back to this, and then we'll end the video real quick. If you read out Vin Scully's full name, Vincent Edward Scully, it equals 234. If you read out 145, the big way, it equals 234. It's super connected to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, after he went and played baseball and he came back, he said, "I'm back." That equals 234 gematria. Drake equals 234 in Jewish gematria. Drake was the one where all the back-to-back theme had really began. The NBA All-Star Week was even in Toronto last year. Drake is from Toronto. He had the song Back to Back. And it was all about dissing, can't remember the guy's name, but he was dissing some guy from Philadelphia about the 1993 Blue Jays who won back-to-back. And Michael Jordan retires from basketball in the year 93. His first game with the Birmingham Barons was 256 days before the Major League Baseball strike. Curse of Rocky Colavito equals 257. 94, Cleveland Indians equal 94. Anyway, off topic, back on topic here. Prince Charles's real name, his full name equals 234. The English Civil War began on the 234th day of the year. It's been a big number that I've talked about a lot back in basketball and whatnot. Every sports championship this season or this year was connected to the royal family. Most of it was connected to Prince Charles or King Charles during the English Civil War. So, just interesting. Wanted to point out these 234s. Once again, why I think Vin Scully is they're pointing to the Cleveland Indians with Vin Scully. I think that's why even last night in the game 5, Vin Scully introduced the game or whatever, because I think that's the last time we're going to see him in Los Angeles. That was his tribute, that's what I think, but who knows. One last thing in regards to Israel and whatnot, we got Jason Kipnis on the Cleveland Indians, and supposedly his father was Jewish, and he says that he's Jewish, but he's also really he's a Catholic, and sports a crucifix and whatnot. You can just look him up for yourself. He's Jewish, and the reason that's so interesting is because when they showed that Israel sign, the Love Israel, back 1948, he was the one who he made the play to end the 5th inning, and then he was batting at the very beginning of the 6th inning, and when they showed that sign, this Buffalo Wild Wings sign, it was in between there in the commercial break, right before he came up to bat, and he was the one who ended the 5th inning even. And in this game, Ernie Johnson, the announcer, even tells us, I believe it was in the 2nd inning, but he tells us that Jason Kipnis grew up in Chicago, and he lived on the same street as Steve Bartman, and his sister went to high school with Steve Bartman. And Steve Bartman, if you don't know, was one of the guys who cursed the Cubs against the Florida Marlins and whatnot. So, literally, what are the odds of that? They said that on purpose because they were telling you about the curse of the Billy Goat. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. If you really pay attention to what they talk about in these games, they give you clues constantly. But what I wonder about it is if Jason Kipnis will be cursed because he lives on the same street, or he grew up on the same street as Steve Bartman, or is he going to curse, is he like Steve Bartman, and he's going to be like the MVP of the World Series against the Cubs, or something along the lines of that. So I'm going to end the video there. Hopefully that makes sense. I just wanted to show how all of this stuff is super interrelated. The Cubs curse is interrelated with the Indians curse. I know I've made tons of videos on this, but I wanted to kind of make a little summary video to explain what I'm talking about. So, whatever, have a good one.